Folks, Treshaun Ward has officially entered the transfer portal. We're talking about that and more on today's edition of Locked On Seminoles. Dave, let's ride.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, and welcome back to another edition of Locked On Seminoles. What's up, everybody? It's your boy Drake here, and today in the stream yard, I got Mr. David Wise. Davey, what's up, my guy?
Drake, it's a great day. It's a great day to have a great day. Thanks, Willie Taggart, for your sayings. Really appreciate that.
He did have some really good sayings, to be honest. Like, it's a great day, have a great day. Low-key is actually something that everyone probably should have for every single thing, but thankfully, though, we're no longer dealing with an era, but we are dealing with what's the new age of college football, and that is players entering the transfer portal. So far, FSU has basically they haven't had any major contributors enter the portal, but yesterday, Mr. Treshaun Ward, 2 days ago, Mr. Treshaun Ward actually did enter the transfer portal. FSU's kind of mainstay running back for the past, I want to say, 2 seasons. He was number 2 behind Mr. Deshaun Corbin a few seasons ago. Last year he was the number 1 until Trey Benson emerged, and now it appears that he will be looking for for greener pastures, but also an opportunity to be a true number 1, get some tape for himself heading to the next level. Dave, what do you make of the decision by Mr. Ward to head into the portal?
Well, I can tell you that he ain't going to find greener pastures. He may find somewhere where he's going to get more snaps, but I don't think the pastures will be greener.
Well, pastures and like greener pastures for him is like actually being the number 1 running back, getting more carries, and I think that's kind of like what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a loss for sure. I mean, Treshaun Ward ran the ball extremely well when he was healthy this year. That dude has great ball vision. He has great balance. It's definitely a loss. He graded out at 83.4 running the ball on 94 carries. Yeah, that's 6.7 yards per attempt. You're going to miss that every single time. But what I make of it is we have a logjam at running back. That's just a good problem to have. I mean, Lawrence Toafili also ran the ball well this year. I expect him to progress and take a step forward next year. He averaged almost 5 yards a carry this year. Trey Benson is clearly the number 1 running back on this team and would be the number 1 running back on most college football teams. So it's an embarrassment of riches problem, I guess. We're still going to get to see Rodney Hill next year. He only had 27 carries, but he graded out at an 80 this year too. So we just have a lot of guys who either are already or are looking like they're going to be really, really good running backs. So it's, he had to do what he had to do to get some more carries. I understand that. It sucks. It feels like we have this whole like unspoken or unofficial understanding among everyone on this team that we're going to run it back for next year and we're going to do it with as much ammo as we have. So it kind of sucks in that regard. I kind of thought that was like I don't know, something among the whole team at this point with how many guys are coming back. But yeah, I mean, it's a loss. No other way to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, it is a pretty big loss. I mean, Treshaun Ward definitely has your best vision on your team, the best patience on your team, probably underratedly the best hands actually out of that running back room. And honestly, without Treshaun Ward, you actually might not win the Oklahoma Bowl game that we just had because Trey Benson did struggle immensely in that game. The vision wasn't there. He wasn't hitting the holes. He felt had a little happy feet before he could make a decision. It was like kind of T-Rich-esque, but Treshaun Ward is definitely someone that actually he does deserve to go somewhere and be the true alpha number 1, get the majority of the carries, and that's something that I would love to see him probably go over to maybe a Big 12 schools or he's maybe because the focal point of an offense. I think that would be probably a great landing spot area for him. And best of luck to the kid because he's a former preferred walk-on from the Wood Taggart era. Basically earned his way onto the team, earned his way with a scholarship as well. And he was someone that we saw with Notre Dame game last season. They were like, oh, who is like it was you actually was like, wait, who is that running the ball right now after like a 10-yard carry? Like, that's Treshaun Ward. And you're like, that's who? And that's someone that he's gone from that to basically now Dave is lamenting his loss. And he is a big loss for the team, but like you're saying, Dave, the running back room is loaded with Trey Benson, Rodney Hill. I don't know if you mentioned, but Caziah Holmes, CJ
Right.
Campbell, another walk-on story, and Samuel Singleton, the Fleming Island running back, who I low-key has a chance to be very, very special for this team.
Yeah, I think a lot of people I always forget it too, and so do you. We all forget Caziah Holmes is coming in. The kid's a
I
four-star running
always
back.
do. I
He's
always do. That kid's gross too.
gonna be really good. So for anybody like kind of freaking out about this, it really is. It's gonna be okay. Trey Benson, he may struggled in that Oklahoma game, but think about this. He had 994 rushing yards. Such a shame he didn't get six more in that bowl game, but it is what it is. 698 of those yards came after contact. That dude averaged 4.5 yards after contact per run. That's more than a yard more than Treshaun Ward. They're just different in that respect. You don't get Trey Benson to the ground. Treshaun Ward got more of his yards before contact. So, they're a little different, but I think it's easier to replicate Treshaun Ward's performance with what you already have on the team with Rodney Hill, with Lawrence Toafili, with Caziah Holmes than it is to replace what Trey Benson brings to this team, which is a guy that you just can't get to the ground. So if either of the two were going to leave, I don't want to say I'm glad Treshaun Ward is gone. I still wish he was on the roster, but between the two, I'd rather it be Treshaun than Trey. So we are still in very good shape for next year.
I mean, it's a business decision, and that's all it comes down to. That's how CFB has been working all for all time, and now it's just more a little more out in the open. So best of luck to Strong Ward where he lands. Also for a little bit of a housekeeping thing, best luck to Mara Gaynor, who officially now is with the UNC Tar Heels, and then I think yesterday too as well, Keyshawn Helton announced that he will be actually heading to Cincinnati, and that also will be a good spot for a kid that had a very promising first season, got derailed by injury, took him a little while to get back, and that's someone that was still culture building, was still here for the team, a great leader on and off the field. So best luck to all three of them wherever they land, also where they have landed. But Dave, let's move on to a player that might be transferring in the next segment. But before we do that, let's talk about friends over at Bet Online. Bet Online is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your latest sports action. And we have a future to talk about with Dave's Fade Dave segment of the day, of the millennium, of the week, of the new year. And that is David and I played baseball majority of our lives.
Yeah.
And the World Cup version of baseball happens next month. I will actually be at a majority of those games. Is the World Baseball Classic. We have the futures up. The USA is favored to repeat it all and win it all again. A second consecutive tournament at plus 250. But I see Puerto Rico plus 800, the Dominican at plus 275, Venezuela plus 1600, and Cuba at plus 1400. Dave, is there any team that you're thinking about taking for this matchup or no? Sorry, for tournament or no?
No, baseball's too much of a crapshoot to me. Like I had my time betting on baseball. There's just too much randomness to me with like a guy has a bad pitching outing and it's like you lose the whole thing because of that. So no, I do think we're gonna win the whole thing. So if I had to bet on anything, I'd bet on the USA, and I like that we're still plus 250. And yeah, those are some great value picks like on Puerto Rico, like you mentioned. I think that's good value, but yeah, not betting World Baseball Classic. If I did, I'd take USA because I do think we're gonna win.
That's something that with the team overall, this team for Team USA is fully loaded. And it's more loaded than the last time that we had here because last time I think the starting outfield was Adam Jones, Grayson outfield for the Baltimore Orioles, Christian Yelich for the Marlins, Stan with the Marlins at the time because now they're freaking gone. Don't get me started on that. But when your best pitcher, what I think was Marcus Stroman, is different now when you have Mike Trout playing, Bryce Harper, JT Realmuto catching. And overall, to me, I think plus 250 is a great pick for the USA. I do think that Venezuela or the Dominican is definitely going to be a team to watch out for. Dominican, especially with the Sandy Alcantara being your ace in your staff. But folks, head over to BetOnline. BetOnline is where the game starts. Fastest and easiest place to get all your live sports action, news, and analysis because BetOnline, folks, is where gambling is fun responsibly. Okay, Dave, we are back. We are rolling. And thank you each and every single one of you so much for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every single day. And now, Dave, we need to talk about Mr. Gilbert Edmond, the former South Carolina defensive end that is visiting Florida State as of this time, as of this recording. And it's something that we talked about on Monday where we said that we need to continue shoring up the trenches, especially along the defensive line. Dave, what do you make of him visiting, and how do you feel about FSU chances of landing the kid?
Okay. Those are two different answers, or there's like three different answers to what you're presenting here. What I make of it is that the coaching staff recognizes the need to add a couple more, or at least one more edge lineman. I think if you watch the Oklahoma game, you were really, really frustrated by how bad of a job Florida State did setting the edge. It felt like anytime Oklahoma needed yards, just run the ball to the boundary. I'm just glad the coaching staff saw the same thing that my eyes saw, and that I'm not crazy. Clearly, we need more edge talent on this team. Obviously, still waiting on Jared Verse to announce what he's doing. But even if he comes back, I still think you need another edge defender, especially because you need a third guy in the rotation. And we have some guys on the roster that I'm looking forward to seeing develop. Like Patrick Payton just played so much better than I thought he would, and had his coming out party this year. So that's good to see. Obviously, we still have Jarek McClendon, and maybe Jared Verse. So there still is talent on this roster, but we're not done. There's like three positions left that we still, I think, got to address: safety, defensive end, and offensive lineman. But just good to see the coaching staff recognizing and pursuing that right away. In terms of Gilbert Edmond himself, look, I don't know anything other than what I see in the stats, like the PFF grades and whatnot, because I don't watch South Carolina football. And if I'm looking at the PFF stats, yeah, uh, under 60, we're looking at under 60 PFF grade. Pass rush 60.1, tackling 44.4. That's tackling is a little bit of something our defensive line struggle with this year. So I don't know that our next defensive end necessarily I need to be a guy that's going to have tackling issues, or not be an elite run defender. I think I'd rather bring in somebody who's going to be sound against the run, who's displayed that already for at least one season. So look, if the coaches see something in Gilbert Edmond that I just don't see from PFF grades, then great. But otherwise, I want to see a stout run defender brought in along the defensive line on the edge.
Sorry, folks, forgot to unmute my mic. So typically, whenever it comes to South Carolina commits, I mean transfer or targets, I always text my group chat that I'm in with a bunch of former alumni there, boosters as well, and I'm like, hey, scouting report, Gilbert Edmond, the same people that told me that Jamie Robinson, stud, Kier Thomas, stud, Jaheim Bell, please don't leave us. So with Gilbert Edmond, basically the best one I was able actually to get over was solid role player. And that's basically kind of the bottom line with him overall. Now, he is someone that has played a lot of snaps. I do want to say, I think it was either Brendan Sonnone or Zach Blossing from 247 Sports did say the kid played what day, like 600 something snaps?
What, last year he played 654.
654 at a defensive end spot. That's exhausting when you're playing defensive end role. So if you do bring him in here to pair up with a Dennis Briggs and also with a Jared Verse, if he does come back, or what's the other kid's name? Derek McClendon, if he comes back, you're able to, if you cut those in half, maybe make them more high quality snaps and actually make them more less volume, more quality. That definitely could help him actually reach his potential, because also remember, Dave, he was a wide receiver in high school and then transitioned to defensive line, and he's gained like 45 pounds in like 3 years. So to me, this is a kid that's still learning the game, and who better than someone who's been great developing defensive end talent like Mr. John Puches, aka the Greek Freak.
No, I don't disagree with what you just said, but I will push back on the idea of, oh, we'll bring him in and look what he could have around him, and that could make him better. Well, if that's the case, you could say that for anybody, technically. And there's a zillion players in the transfer portal right now, and there's still players announcing for the transfer portal right now. So I don't know that you're necessarily in like a rush to lock anyone up. You've landed everybody major that you've wanted to land, I think, so far in the transfer portal. So I think you can be a little more discerning here. And if that is Gilbert Edmond, great, pull the trigger. I'll be happy about it and can't wait to see how it plays out. But I'm curious to see if there's any more proven edge defenders out there who are going to be stout against the run so that Oklahoma doesn't happen in 2023.
No, I mean that's fair. And I know Javante Jean-Baptiste, that's the Ohio State edge rusher that just entered the portal. I know Dave's like, oh, I hear Ohio State. I wonder how good that kid is. The kid is very good, Dave. He was a high end reserve. I think is the best way to kind of like put it. I want to say that's something a term that's been 247 was discussing the other day too as well. And then maybe you'll see. I still think there's gonna be some players when I think bowl games are finally wrapping up. We have one more game before CFP is over. So we're gonna see some names from probably both those teams also enter the portal. But I do think Gilbert Edmond at the very least is a great rotational piece, and you do need some rotational pieces and bench players actually on this roster overall, especially when you're still waiting on the development of other edge rushing pieces. Especially you also lost Keldrick Falk to Auburn last week during sorry, not last week, last month during the early signing period. So I do pick up what you're throwing down. Maybe you want to wait a little bit, but also with how quick transfer portal is, you want to get them on campus as soon as possible because I think the visit window actually ends in a few days. I think actually, and then the 15th is the last day when kids can enter the portal. So I think that's also why as well. And you want them to be on campus for spring.
No,
So
get all the kids you want on campus that you have an offer out to, and see if you can see who's interested in you. I get it. I do think it's funny that we just keep raiding South Carolina's pantry. It just seems like year after year. It's just so funny to me. We always take like their best players. So
yeah, I'm not getting a lot of love in the group right now. To be honest with you, it's like hey, it's like one of those 50. It's like the 57 meme. I'm like, why are you saying "f me" for? Like, what did I do? It was like, no, it's the
yeah,
team. It's the team. Yeah,
right.
overall. But you know what actually isn't a difficult thing. What isn't kind of harrowing,
What's that, Drake?
and that's our friends over at built.com, folks. We've been talking about it all year for the past, I think, 2, 3 years. I think they're the longest running sponsor because Built Bars are a delicious treat because you don't get any of the fat or the calories. As I said before, Dave is the cookie dough connoisseur. Your boy is the Cherry Barcia Casanova. Max was the peanut butter brownie brigade general, but he's still crushing them over there actually overall. But if you don't like those three flavors, there are 17 other flavors to choose from, like churro, and coconut almond, and also a vanilla cheesecake actually was pretty good. And also coconut by itself is delicious because 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and 17 grams of protein. That's something that basically you can't get with any other protein bar. And honestly, folks, you can head over to your nearest Walmart today or even Sam's Club because now you can get these actually in store or online from built.com. But here's promo code LOCK15. That's LOCKED15 to get a 15% off welcome on your first order. Once again, that's LOCK15, LOCKED15 because built.com. Built bars are delicious, they're nutritious, and folks, in 2023, let's get healthy together. Okay, Dave, we're going to wrap up the show today. We got two options. We can either talk about the Battle Zen Collective announcing several returns, especially the important return of Azaria Thomas, or I'll give you the ball and you can go wherever the hell you want, which is kind of scary, but also fun at the same time.
No, I actually do want to talk about that because there were obviously multiple players yesterday that we found out were going to be coming back. I don't think people probably appreciate enough how important it is that Akeem Dent is coming back.
They don't. I know. Thank you. Okay. Sorry.
Akeem Dent was really highly rated coming out of high school. And I think his first couple years here, people were probably disappointed with his performance relative to what they expected out of him. His first 2 years, he graded at a 58 and a 57.2. That's not what you expected from a kid that highly rated. But last year he 68.7, this year 66.3. So it's gotten better. He was one of our better tackling defensive backs this year, which is always great to see. He struggled mightily in pass rush, for example. I don't hold that against him. He's a safety. I don't expect him to be doing a whole ton of pass rush. So if that's the big knock against him this year, he was great. He was good in coverage. He was good against the run. He was very good tackling. We lost Jamie Robinson. He's going to the NFL. We would have been without either safety if Akeem Dent had left, and that's a scary proposition for a secondary that I was also already slightly worried about, and that I had already said we still need to address through the transfer portal. And I think you would agree, and I think everybody agrees, with Jamie Robinson leaving, you have to replace him with a transfer player. Well, replacing him and Akeem would have just screwed the continuity of this team. Like, you have Shaheem Brown still. He played well this year. I expect good things out of him, but I still think if you're trying to make next year your money year, you're going all in on next year. You needed Akeem Dent to come back. You needed him starting as a safety to really um, jumpstart that defense going into next year. So I think the defense will. We talked about this earlier in the week. That's like a top 25. We should be talking type defense. Akeem Dent coming back is very important to this being a top 25 defense, notwithstanding what you think about his play throughout the totality of his Florida State career.
No, I completely agree. And I think also with Akeem Dent, to me, he is probably your most important next player next year. And I'm not saying as in your best player. I do think that with the loss of Jamie Robinson, you need someone like him of his caliber to step up into that role. You already know that you do see that he is a solid leader. He's someone who also has battled injuries for the majority of his career. That we saw that last season. He ended the season strong. I mean, remember, I think it was a month after the end of last year that he was in some mock drafts in the first 3 rounds. And this is a kid that's returning, coming back. You need the continuity, like you're saying, to continue for next year because you can't replace both. It will be extremely difficult to replace a caliber player of Jamie and Akeem. It's already hard to replace a caliber of player of Jamie just by himself. And Shaheem Brown, I think the world of him. I think he's going to be a great, solid player, but it does ease the burn a little bit with Akeem still back there. He's been in the system for what now? 4 years at this point. He'll be entering his 4th year under Coach Adam Fuller, the defensive coordinator, and that's a massive return. And also another massive return, so you don't have to think about losing a kid to the portal. That's both AJ Duffy and Caziah Thomas. In a world now where NIL is, it definitely does affect transfers, especially first-year players. It's really good to see FSU's, number one, I guess, quarterback heading into probably after Jordan Travis leaves, actually fully staying. And also same thing with Caziah Thomas, who's a kid that played extremely well, and he does have an extremely bright future. And now we'll see developmentally wise when we land a new defensive backs coach where his career trajectory actually can land because he played in 11, 13 games as a freshman. He is one of only 2 freshman players that actually did have to burn the red shirt this year. So that's something that, quite frankly, is huge for them and encourages them to landing all the kids that were announced yesterday.
Yeah, I think with Sam McCall leaving this offseason, I think people worried, please not as REA2. So I was really glad personally to see them announce that the deal with him because Zaria Thomas is going to be a great player at Florida State. I think you saw enough of that this year to know that. AJ Duffy, I was worried about because with Jordan Travis announcing he's coming back, that's just how the world is now. Like if a quarterback isn't positive he's going to start soon, he's just going to go somewhere else that's going to tell him he can start soon. And if they don't let him start soon, he's going to go somewhere else that's going to tell him he's going to start soon. So, yeah, that worried me. I mean, it's obvious to me that after this next season, Jordan Travis is going to go pro. But still, quarterbacks don't like to wait, especially. I mean, nobody does. But you've seen in the transfer portal, quarterbacks hit awfully quick. So I did have some fear in the back of my mind about AJ Duffy. I am very excited to see him play football here in the future at Florida State. Obviously, this is Jordan Travis's year coming up. No question about it. So just great to see him locked in. Great to see Azaria locked in. This team is going to be good beyond 2023. It is. But it's good to see for next year we have a little bit of peace of mind in that regard.
No, agreed. And also shout out to Micah Pittman. He also was announced yesterday. Micah Pittman, who, while he only had 32 catches for 330 yards, that kid was probably he's probably your most reliable person on the team.
Yep.
Always catches the ball, doesn't fumble often. He had the one bad route against NC State, but also overall to me, he's someone that has the energy. He's got that pitbull mentality, and also he's a tough little kid. He's a tough little MF man. I mean, he's a good player. He's fun to watch. Something that it was great to pick up last season. It's also good he's coming back for another year. And also, folks, it's great to have each and every single one of you coming back for each and every single episode. Now, Dave, please, as always, as beautifully as you do, please send us and the folks home.
Folks, I love you. I appreciate you. I couldn't do this. We couldn't do this without you watching or listening. And speaking of listening, for Spotify, find us anywhere you find your podcasts. Spotify, Stitcher, Apple, Google Play, anywhere you find them. For the YouTube, give this video a like if you would, please. It takes 2 seconds. Subscribe to the channel and ding the little bell. Turn your notifications on. Find out when our episodes drop. And do leave us a comment. I don't know what to tell you to leave in the comments today, but do leave a comment about anything we've said, anything you disagree with. I always love knowing what I got wrong or what I got right. If you feel like just telling me what I got right, I'll read that all day.
I'll also read the ones you got wrong and tell me about on a later date. But for Dave, this is Drake, and we'll see y'all next time on Locked On Seminoles. Take care, everybody.
Go Noles.
Go Noles.